Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. Just want to give everybody a minute to come into the chat. And I also want to give people a minute to get themselves together. So I'm going to start promoting it on social media and then we'll get started with the show. What's going on, computer robots? So, before I get started, I'm going to go into the perfunctory, which is me talking about my own books, which is um, I have two books out right now as part of the SJS Direct 2021 catalog. That is John Haynes' Taking Care of Business, where the man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business. And I also have Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. So both of these books are on Amazon.com right now. And if you put in your order for Tariq's Buck Breaking, you can pick up both of these positive African American fantasy fiction stories along with it and help out another Black owned business. So I'm going to leave a link to both of those books in the chat. And you guys can go and pick up that great positive Black fiction on Amazon right now. And now I'm going to get started. So, one of my viewers graciously paid for a copy of Tariq Nasheed's Buck Breaking and had it sent to me. And I took last weekend to watch Tariq Nasheed's Buck Breaking, and I thought it was an absolutely fantastic documentary, very well researched, very thorough in its presentation, and a very solid documentary that really broke down all of the facts as related to how white supremacy wants to go out here and break not only the Black man, but the Black woman, and also wants to go out here and break both the Black man and the Black woman in an effort to destroy the Black family. So Tariq has made a masterpiece with this Buck Breaking documentary. I mean, all of the information here was meticulously researched, and it really followed a lot of the my own research that I have done over the years in many of my men's issues books, like The Man Crisis and books like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. So I can tell you that Tariq's facts are on point in this documentary, and every detail and every fact practically fits the timeline as related to Black people and all of their struggles with white supremacy. Now, I found this documentary, again, to be very, very compelling, and I found it to be very thought provoking. So I really want to thank the brother who paid for me to get this buck breaking DVD because it really was an eye opener as related to presenting the facts as related to how white supremacy really wants to try to destroy the black race and how it's in a part of a plan to again genetically annihilate the black race. So everything here again is packed with lots of facts as related to black history and as related to white supremacy, and as a lot of facts as related to the history as related to white supremacy's obsession with power. And that obsession with power is the core foundation to why many of these white supremacists have this obsession with sex, and how this obsession with sex has them trying to, again, go out here and buck break the black man and the black woman, but more so the black man, because they are extremely, as I always saw it, insecure about their place in the world. And I believe many of these white supremacists, they are terrified about black power because they know that the power base that they have was never really based on anything truly stable. So your white supremacist is always in a state of extreme insecurity, and it's that insecurity that has them obsessed with black people and obsessed with trying to break black people because they know if the black man really were to rise to power again, they fear that they would be placed back in a submissive position because without that black man out there to go out here and help build whatever he wants to build and maintain what he has, he would not be able to survive or exist. So he needs to break this black man in order to have the power that he has. And that was a lot of points that Tariq was making about how these people are obsessed with black people. And that's what I really got even before I went out here and watched this DVD. From my own research, there is an obsession with black people all over the world as related to dominance and power. And that's one of the reasons why they want to go out here and buck break the black man, is because they are extremely insecure about the power that they have. And it's this insecurity about having power that really drives a lot of white supremacy, as I see it, because it's this insecurity and this fear of losing power that has them obsessed with trying to control black people. And they believe if they can control black people, they can maintain their power. Now, Tariq started out his documentary making the point that if you confuse black people sexually, it's a way of really messing them up. And I have to agree with that point because, again, if you confuse someone sexually, especially at an early age, it really does a number on their identity. So there's always, again, this obsession with sex with the white supremacist, but he wants to confuse black people because if you confuse somebody early about their sexuality, then they really lose their focus on their purpose. And as I see it, they really lose their connection to the Most High. Because as Jesus stated in the beginning, he made male and female, and he made male and female to come together to serve him in and do his work on the earth. And when you have a person who is confused about their sexuality and don't know if they are a male or a female, what you do is sever the connection between the man and the Most High God. And what that does is it takes that man off the road as related to his purpose. And when you take that man off the road of his purpose, one, you keep him from knowing the Most High God, one, and two, you keep him from understanding his role as related to the Most High God. So when you take the man and you go out here and confuse him, he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know what his role is, and he doesn't know his purpose as a man. And your white supremacist does not want your man to know his role and his purpose because he wants the man to be confused, because that allows him to be able to become the God over the man, and that allows him to subjugate the man and break him into a place of submission under him. And this is how the black man gets buck broken psychologically by white supremacy, because he is following the white supremacist and believing that he, one, is a God, and two, believes that he has to follow the lead of that God, and believes that he has the direct connection to everything, when this was never the case at all, because the Most High God is not a man, but the white supremacist wants the black man to believe that he is a man. And this is one of the points, I could agree with Tariq, and I can really, when he started going into the whole biblical and religious aspects of things, I could really get into that, because when he started talking about how these white supremacists went out here and twisted religion, this is something I saw as, in my own videos, I talked about as one of the greatest sins ever since, Adam and Eve and the great fall. And I always said that the second greatest sin ever the devil ever made was telling the white man that he was the most powerful being on the planet. And the whole concept of white supremacy, and as satanic as it is, thank you, D-Rock King, for the super chat and the super sticker. I really appreciate it. And if you guys want to, thank you, DWT1975, for the super chat. If you want to donate to the super chat, you may do so as well. And if you want to donate to the Cash App, which brings the money directly to SJS Direct, you can donate to the Cash App by clicking the link in the chat. But when it comes down to this white supremacist, he again wants to undermine God's order. And again, as I saw it, the second greatest sin next to Eve and the great fall is the whole concept of white supremacy, because Satan told this white man and this white woman that they were supreme, and that because of the color of their skin, they were granted complete dominion over the earth. And it's this concept that makes the whole idea of white supremacy global, and it keeps people from being connected to the Most High God and being connected to this whole religion of white supremacy. And that's one of the points I wish Tariq would have gone into in this whole buck breaking process. But he did really talk about how these religions practically became corrupted. And he really went into that. And I really loved the way he went into how these religions became completely corrupted, because we clearly see the hypocrisy of many of these so-called religious figures as related to this whole buck breaking piece, because according to their scriptures, they were supposed to love men as they loved themselves, and they were supposed to love the Lord with all their heart, their soul, and their strength. And according to the Bibles that many of the slave masters read, it stated that in the Old Testament, not to lie with a man as a woman in the law, And it also spoke against these sodomite acts as related to Sodom and Gomorrah. But here we had the slave master participating in this sexual deviancy, and he was doing this as he was sitting there talking about he was this Christian who went to church. So we see some hypocrisy as related to this slave master, but this whole thing really again shows how much of a sexual deviant this slave master was. And it shows how he was never following the Most High God and how he was following his own religion that he created to fit his white supremacist narrative. So when we look at this documentary, it really, again, makes a point that I made many years ago in a video where I talked about the hypocrisy of these slave masters as related to their so-called Christianity. And I also made this point in the first ISIS book I wrote way back in 2002. And I remember writing that ISIS book in 2002. And that book, I again also went in and talked about the white supremacist and how he just sits there and promotes this whole Christian religion, but he never really follows it. So he never really follows it. And he sits there and tells you that he is all about God, but he's really not about God at all. So I put those points in. I put those points in ISIS Special Edition, which you can pick up there. Thank you, Ronald K. Armstrong, for the super chat. He says, another reason to confuse us sexually is to get us to identify as LGBTQ and not fight for Black rights. They see themselves as gay first and Black later. And yes, they do definitely want you to identify with the alphabet group because they don't want you fighting for Black empowerment, because many in all of these groups fear the whole idea of Black empowerment, and they fear the Black empowerment because they understand that when Black people start to take power, there's nobody to piggyback on, and there's nobody there to be in that submissive position. And Wrestling Superstar 83 says, good evening, Mr. James. I'm not the biggest fan of Tariq Nasheed. However, based on your review, I'll have to pick up this documentary myself. And yes, let's get the likes up. We have 53 in the chat. So let's get the likes up. And yeah, I know that people don't like Tariq Nasheed, but this is one that I say you definitely have to go out here and get. This buck breaking is very thoroughly researched, very well done documentary, very, very well put together. I mean, Tariq has shown great skill with this documentary. And I can go on record in saying that when doing my own research for books like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, a lot of the talking points that Tariq presents in this documentary, I can confirm that I found in my own research. And I have had much of this same research that I've been doing for those nonfiction books. A lot of it that he puts in here correlates with a lot of what I was doing research on. And a lot of the points really hit on point as related to the core foundations of white supremacy and this whole process of buck breaking and this whole process of trying to, again, destroy the Black man and the Black woman. And he really goes, again, in detail about how this is not just about breaking the Black man, but it's also about breaking the Black woman. Because when you break the Black man and you break his body and his spirit, what you do is make it where everything else falls apart. Because again, if we go back to the biblical standard, the man is the head. He is the one with the direct connection to God. He is the steward and he is the leader. And if you break the leader, then the woman who is the helpmeet and support and the children who follow behind the woman, when they see this, what happens is they lose faith because they see their leader broken And when they see their leader broken, then they lose all hope. And again, instead of submitting to the leadership and authority of the black man, they then start to follow the white supremacist because they see the white supremacist as the one who is dominant, but they don't really understand that his dominance is based on a false narrative because the white supremacist, the only reason why he has power is based on the lie that Satan has told him. And the white supremacist only has power because he needs to have the power that the devil has given him. So all of his, everything that he has is based on the core foundation of a lie. And the whole thing is he needs the black man and the black woman to continue believing the lie in order for him to maintain power. So, in order to maintain that power, he needs to break the black man psychologically, because when he breaks the black man psychologically, then his mind is in a state where he sees the white supremacist as the one with the power, but he does not see himself as having power given to him by Jesus and the Most High God, who have given him the victory over the devil. And because he doesn't see that victory he has, he's still thinking that he has to fight this white supremacist devil, not understanding that God has given him greater power to overcome this demon and many of the lies that he's told. Because again, his foundation is all based on this lie. Again, the second greatest lie ever told, that the white man and the white woman have been given power. Thank you, Carlene, for the soup for these Cash App. I really appreciate it. And good. I'm glad you're enjoying the show, Gboot 2786. You can always catch me on Gboot 2786 on Thursdays at 9 p.m. when I do his show as a guest star. But in this show, I really wanted to do this one because Tariq really, again, put together a solid masterpiece with that buck breaking documentary. And again, I can look at the false narratives that the white supremacist puts because, again, he's insecure about his power because he knows his power is based on a lie. And the way he keeps his power is by confusing the black man and the black woman because he needs both of them at odds with each other. And he also needs the black man in that submissive position far under the pet in order to keep his order because he knows he can't compete against the black man if the black man is allowed an opportunity to take power. Because we've seen this in areas like sports where people like Michael Jordan and many of these black NFL players, and even in Major League Baseball, have dominated the sport. And this is one of the things the white supremacist fears is if blacks come to power in places, they won't be able to dominate. So when the black man is allowed an opportunity to enter an arena to compete, he usually dominates. And this is their fear. And that's why they don't really want black men to go out here and build businesses. And when we do build businesses like Black Wall Street and places like Rosewood, there's an effort made to tear those businesses down and destroy those businesses and practically wipe them from the face of the earth so that people won't have hope. And that's why they try to destroy people like our great elder, Bill Cosby, because he also showed power and dominance that's related to business because your Bill Cosby practically revived a dying NBC and made it the #1 network with just one television show. And that's why they feared him buying NBC because they feared if he got that kind of economic power, then he would be somebody they could not control. And he would start going out here producing positive images of black people, inspiring a new generation of black people. And then those black people would start to go out here and do things like they saw on the show A Different World, going to college, going out here and working on business ventures, and then not being dependent on the system of white supremacy and the businesses of white supremacy. So there's always been an effort to try to break the black man, and that's always been trying to break the black man in many places, again, as related to buck breaking. And again, this efforts as related to slavery and sexual dominance has always been about trying to put the black man in a submissive position. And this is something I went into in one of my own novels, A Recipe for Success. And I remember when I was doing that book and I was talking about down low men, I talked about how this whole relation between the down low man was always about power, and it's always about trying to break another man down. It's always about breaking another man down into a submissive position and making him be under another man, because a lot of the down low men, they really want to have power over another man and secretly, but they want to have the heterosexual relationship so that they can advance socially. Now, back in 2004, 2005, when I wrote A Recipe for Success, when it was called the Cassandra Cookbook, a lot of the agents and stuff, they wanted to look at this book, but once they found out I was writing the alphabet character as a bad guy and showing how he was using the Cassandra Lee character to advance his career, they didn't want to go out here and publish that book. And it really, again, shows the agenda that was going on. I mean, everybody was enthusiastic about that book when I said, oh, this character finds out that the guy who she was going to marry was a down low man. But when I started to show the whole case as related to down lows and how they were just using black women to advance themselves and push their own self up economically at the expense of the black woman, then they didn't want that book. I mean, when I went out here and again submitted that book, people, they were all enthusiastic. And when they found out I was showing that I was pro heterosexual black men and showing pro heterosexual black women, that's when people really got uncomfortable. And that's when I was like wondering why this book was getting rejected. And I didn't know until my best-selling author friend told me that the main reason why people were having an issue with the book was because I was writing the alphabet character as a bad guy. And many of the white women and people in the alphabet community who are running the publishing industry, they didn't like the idea of writing an alphabet character as a bad guy because in their eyes, it was considered to be homophobic. But I was presenting facts as related to how black women were being exploited and taken advantage of by many of these males and how they were being unethical, because if you are loyal to your partner, as you allege, you are not going to want to go out here and tell this lie and go out here and cheat on your partner and disrespect them. But many in the publishing industry didn't, again, want this book out here because they didn't like the narratives I was presenting. So I was forced to go out here and I published it myself in 2008 on the print-on-demand platform, but then it didn't really take off until I took it to digital and changed the title. And most black people, they loved that book, but I couldn't get it to the mainstream marketplace because many out here, they were pushing that agenda as far back as 2005 or 2004. And this agenda has been going on, as I have identified it, all the way back into the 90s, because I remember watching the Drew Carey show, and they were pushing these types of narratives, but they were pushing them, again, towards white people in a playful way, but they've been pushing this anti-black agenda as related to buck breaking for the last, I say, 20 or 30 years. And the way we saw it was the same, Tariq saw it is the same way I saw it. I mean, when you see movies like your The Color Purple, when you see stuff like that, it's just very anti-black man, very misandristic, and it's meant to make the black man look like the bad guy. But again, this is all about buck breaking. This is all about psychologically making the emasculating the black man by making him the villain. But the real villain is the white supremacist puppet master pulling the strings. So what they really want to do is strip the black man of his masculinity, strip the black man of his male identity, and they want to socially engineer the idea that being effeminate is normal because the white supremacist fears black heterosexual masculinity. The white supremacist fears heterosexual black manhood because when you see heterosexual black manhood, it's a sign of power, and many white supremacists feel uncomfortable in the presence of a heterosexual black man who is secure in himself, confident about himself, and can carry and conduct himself in a fashion where he is acting in a way where he has the confidence not to believe that he depends on him and can go out here and be his own man. Because these white supremacists, that when again, as part of the whole buck breaking process, it's not just about the sexual act, it is what the sexual act represents. Now, just like I said in the Recipe for Success, in that book, I talked about how it's all about power. That's what these sex acts are all about for the white supremacist. They aren't about sexual pleasure because he does not get pleasure as related to the sex act. He gets pleasure from the power he takes by breaking a man down. And he gets that pleasure because he can bring that man down to his knees. And he gets that power from hearing that man go out here and yell and cry. Because when that man is on his knees and is crying, what he's doing is submitting to that man. And he's getting off on the pleasure of having power over another man to the point where he can go out here and break that man down to the point where he can have him on his knees underneath him, and he can have that and violate that man in the most intimate part of his body. And that's what the white supremacist is all about, as related again to this buck breaking, because in that place and that position, he can have that black man again in that role under him, and he feels like the god above that man. So he's sitting there believing that he is some sort of god because he has some sort of dominance over this man. And it has to be a man because, again, the man is God's head, the man is God's steward, and the man is the leader. And that's why he's so obsessed with, again, these types of deviant acts, because if he does it to the woman, it doesn't really sate him, because when he goes out here, he already has power over the woman. So an act of sodomy on the woman does not sate him. But an act of sodomy on the man is something that gives him pleasure because he is taking power away from God's steward and God's head. And the whole thing is he can say that he is the God himself over the man. So that's what that's all about, breaking this man down. And that was one of the things that led to your that officer Justin Volpe that I remember back a couple of years ago when he sodomized Admiral Lima with that stick. He said, "I broke a man down," and that's what that's all about: is them breaking the man, taking his power away because he can't fight back, and that's what the whole buck breaking thing is all about, as related to the physical act and the psychological part of it. And that's what the white supremacist wants to do to black people, especially the black man, because if you break the black man, you can get the black woman and the black child not to see him as God's head and steward, but see the white supremacist as the God above all people. And that's what the white supremacist wants to do when he goes out here, and buck breaks black men and then does things like emasculate the black man. And that emasculation takes place not only as related to physical acts, but it's also acts like doing things like economic emasculation. And if you guys remember that classic live stream, I talked about how the white supremacist goes out of his way to deny black men access to the job market and denies them opportunities to get loans and start their own businesses because it's all about preventing the black man from performing his role as God's head and performing his role in providing for his family, which is an essential role to God's order. Because if the man cannot provide for his family, then his family can't see him as a leader. His family does not respect him as an authority figure, and they don't see him as somebody who has any sort of power. And if your black man does not have that job or the ability to make a living, then he does not have an ability to be a respected figure in his community. And that prevents him from being, again, somebody, again, that the family respects and the community respects. And it prevents them from seeing him as somebody who can, again, go out here and provide for the family. And if he does not have the resources to provide for himself, then he doesn't have the resources to go out here and provide protection. And this is why many women don't want to submit to the black man, because they don't see the black man as having power. And that's a false narrative, because the black man would have power, but the white supremacist does not want to give the black man power because he fears he would lose dominance. And this goes back again to something that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was talking about. And when I looked again at Tariq's talking points, they fit right in line with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing as related to the black man, and also in this effort to effeminize the black man. Because the late Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, when she was talking about this whole effeminization of the black man, it was something that I saw with everything that Tariq presented in Buck Breaking. He talked about how it was all an effort to try to, again, effeminize and emasculate the black man, because that's how you take the black man on the road to becoming homosexualized. Because if you have a black man and there is no model for black manhood, there is no model for black masculinity, and there is no example of true black masculinity, then you got black males following behind the female. And when you have males following behind the female, they, one, are not being taught about their role as a man, and they're not being taught about their relationship with the Most High God. So they're starting out on a bad road, because again, the female, even though she's the first teacher, without that man there to help her show an example and model of manhood, that boy really never gets that foundation in manhood to understand what makes him a man and what his role and his purpose are as a man. And instead of him understanding his role and purpose as a man, as a one with direct connection to God, the steward over the earth, and the leader who is going to grow up in the future to take over for his father, he then learns how to become submissive under the woman. And as he learns to become submissive under the woman, he then learns how to further submit himself. So instead of him learning how to become a man, what happens is he winds up becoming submissive himself. And that's not a place where a man wants to be, because when a man is in a submissive position, he's in a position where the female is telling him how to live, and he's being placed again in a position under the woman. And the woman, because she doesn't respect him because he's not a leader, she then sees him as lower than a pet dog. I'm going to leave a link to Tariq's Buck Breaking so you can get your own DVD. And this is a great DVD, and this is a great way to support another Black-owned business, because in addition to, again, creating my own positive Black fiction, I also talk about group economics And it's important for us to support Black-owned businesses like Tariq's King Flex Entertainment, because those businesses are going to give us content we're not going to see in mainstream platforms. Because people like Tariq, when they go out here and make documentaries like this, you're not going to get this kind of content from Hollywood. You're not going to get this kind of content from mainstream media, because mainstream media does not see Black men as men. They see us as caricaturized Black brutes, and they want to continue pushing that narrative that Black men are Black brutes, and that all we do is lust after white women, and all we do is think with our penis. Really, it's a projection of the white supremacist's own ideas as related to himself on the Black man, but it's not who we are. And that's what the white supremacist does in most of his media. He projects his ideas of himself onto us because he is insecure about his own identity. So he tries to make all of his ideas about us when it's really all about him, because he's the one with the serious mental problems. And he sits there and talks about, oh, these Black men are Black brutes. They lust after white women. They're all about sex, when it really is him who is all about sex. It's really him who is lusting after women. And it's really him that eventually, after he's participated in all these sexual acts, goes out here and pushes into sexual deviancy. This is what he does. And he wants to make it like the Black man is the monster, when in actuality, he is the monster, and he is the one with the mental health issues. Richard, thank you for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. And if you want to donate to the Cash App, I'll drop a link to it once more so that you can donate to the Cash App as well. And let's get the likes up. I mean, 89 people in the room. This is a record, a near record. Our biggest record was 107. This is a major record, so let's get those likes up. It helps with the algorithm. And Farside says if he wants to check out the DVD. He wonders if the library will carry it. You have to ask the people at the library if they would have it. But as far as I know, this is a freshly released DVD, and this is just came out. And again, I want to thank the viewer for sending me this DVD because this is very well done, and it really is an extremely educational DVD that will open your mind about this whole buck breaking process, because it wasn't just about sexual acts. Again, this is about white supremacy and power. And these white supremacists, they need to have Black people in a broken position in order to maintain their power. And again, that all starts with the Black man, because if you take him and confuse him, he doesn't understand his own personal power. And if he doesn't understand his own personal power, he doesn't understand his relationship to God, and he doesn't understand his purpose as a man. So this buck breaking process, there's a lot of components to it. And again, we'll go back to that whole part where Tariq talks about, again, the spiritual part of it, where these guys practically compromise their religions, because again, when they go out here and they do things, they say, oh, I'm doing this because I'm following God. But again, when you go back to the scriptures, it says that these acts go against God and are an abomination to him. So how are you doing the work of God and you're participating in abominable acts? I mean, that's the critical question that many Black people need to understand and ask about many of these white supremacists who did this buck breaking. I mean, how can you participate in an act that is abominable to the God you say you serve, and then go out here and say you're going to church every Sunday and that you're going out here and serving God? I mean, that it doesn't really, it shows that these concepts are diametrically opposed to each other. But the white supremacist, again, he's not following the Most High God. He thinks he is God, and he believes that because the devil told him the lie, that he is God, he can go out here and do whatever he pleases as related to these sex acts. And he believes that this power he has allows him the justification to continue participating in these sex acts. So when I look at this whole, again, buck breaking process, again, it's not just about sex. The core foundation of his idea of sex is not pleasure to express love. It is about him having power. And he wants to have that power, and because he needs to have people under him, because he does not want to submit to the Most High God, and he does not want to yield any power, because the devil told him he has this power over the earth. And just like the devil himself, who is roaming to and fro, he believes that he's a god, and he wants to be bigger than God. So when you look at this white supremacist, he's out here, he's obsessed with this sex because he needs to have this power. And without that power, he would be absolutely powerless, because everything that he does always escalates, because when it comes down to his obsession with sex, it never stops with just the woman and getting pleasure from her and procreation. It always escalates into sexual deviancy, and it always goes into sexual deviancy because he wants to have that power over the black man. Thank you, Timothy, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. He says, great show, Mr. James. It's true, to elevate himself, he must destroy the black man. And he says he would love to see the movie. So I left the link to Buck Breaking in the chat, so that you guys can go check it out for yourself. And yes, he, in order to stay on that false level that the white supremacists put him on, he needs to go out here and destroy the black man, because the black man is God's steward. He put him in charge of the earth. The original man comes from the black man, and that was shown to us in the Bible when he says that Jesus has hair like sheep's wool and skin like fine brass. Thank you, Ken, for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. So we see that the roots of the earth come from the black man, but you have these white supremacists. They want to go out here and have this dominance that was given to them by the devil, and they want to be able to keep that going. So that's why they go out here and participate in trying to break the black man. And this, again, obsession with these sexual acts and pushing these agendas, it's a core foundation of white supremacy. Now, in my own work, I have talked about this at length in my book. I remember my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And as I was doing the research for why 70% of Black women are single, you can get that book on Amazon as well. When I was doing the research, I could see the foundations of white supremacy in white feminism. And this goes all the way back to the roots of your white feminist, who basically is a white supremacist. And she's angry because this black man has power that she will never have, because, again, a man is a steward and a head, but these white females, they covet the power of the black man. And these white female racists, because your feminist is a racist and a white supremacist, they have a deep hatred of the black man because he is male, and they hate the black man because he is somebody who has great power. So they really hate this black man, and they were really angry when black men got the right to vote. So your white feminist is a co-conspirator in the whole campaign to buck break the black man, because they hate the power that he has, and they hate that the fact that if he does come to power, the white woman won't be the number two person. And some of them, a lot of these feminists, a lot of people don't understand, a lot of them were lesbians, and a lot of them were also mentally ill. And you can read this in books like your Valerie Solanas' Scum, The Society for Cutting Up Men. I read that manifesto at length, and other feminist works, because I read a lot of different feminist works early on in my life, and a lot of these feminists are racist. A lot of them have a deep hatred of black men, and they hate black men because black men will always have a God given power that they will never have, and they are angry that that black man has power that they will never have. So your feminist is a co-conspirator in trying to buck break the black man and emasculate the black man. And many people, they're sitting there thinking, oh, these feminists are all about women's rights. No, they are about white female supremacy. They are not about trying to get any sort of equal rights, because your white female has always been elevated to a high position in society. I mean, she is considered the highest standard of beauty. And when she submits to the black, not the black man, the white man gives her practically everything she wants. I mean, if you look at our gynocentric society, the white woman practically has most of the jobs. She is the largest voting bloc, and she is well taken care of in our society. But your feminist will sit there and say, oh, I'm being oppressed and a victim. But how are you a victim when white men go out of their way to elevate you to a high position in society and practically give you whatever you want, whether it be a job, whether it be in a really powerful position in many of these jobs, because a white female can go in here with a GED and practically get a $60,000 a year job, but a black man can't really get a job making $20,000 a year, even if he has multiple college degrees. And these white females can go out here and marry any guy, whoever they choose, based on how much makeup they put on their face. But they want you to see their stories of oppression. How are you oppressed when you are elevated again to the highest position of society? How are you oppressed when you are considered the ultimate standard of beauty? How are you oppressed when, again, you are the largest voting bloc? And how are you oppressed when you practically control the job market and you have people like your President Biden out here talking about how we need to get the women back into the workforce? If you look for most media, they're sitting there talking about how we need to get the women back, but you're not hearing anybody talk about we need to get the black man back to work. So that really again shows how your white supremacist, he really again has this power and control, but they really don't want to push that narrative because they're sitting there and again talking about oppression and being a victim. But how are you again a victim when you have every benefit in society? How are you a victim? And that's the critical question many black people need to ask as related to these feminists. And when you really look at the facts as related to things, you can see how the feminist, again, is a component of white supremacy, and she works hand in hand with him towards keeping black people down. And this is something that Tariq talked about, and then I talked about in my own book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And this is one of the reasons why they want to keep the black man and the black woman separated, because their campaign was to, again, separate the black man and the black woman, because they did not want to see strong black families, and they did not want to see a strong black economy. The one thing that the white supremacist fears is a black man and a black woman coming together. So that's one of the reasons why they go out here and buck break black men. And they also wage campaigns to demonize the image of black men, because they want to make the black man the boogeyman and the bad guy so that he will not be considered attractive. And they don't want him to be seen as an ideal as related to manhood and masculinity. And we just broke a record as related to viewers for one of my streams. We are now at 111. So let's get the likes up. I mean, this is a record for one of my live streams. So let's get those likes up and take it to the next level. But they don't really want to see a black man and a black woman coming together, because the greatest thing that white supremacy fears is a black man and a black woman coming together to form a black family. Because when a black man and a black woman come together to form a black family, they form a family where they have black children. And when they form that black family, when those black children, they teach their children a culture of black pride. And they teach their children that culture of black pride. That's the thing that the white supremacist fears the most, because they learn to value blackness. They learn to see beauty in blackness. They learn to see a sense of worth in blackness. And this is something that many white supremacists don't like seeing, because when you have a black family coming together, what happens is you have a black family that has an understanding of their value, they have an understanding of their purpose. And when they have that understanding of value and purpose, what they do is go out here and build for self, put self first. And this is something the white supremacist does not want to see, because in order for him to get his needs met economically, he needs a group of people at the bottom of the world so that he can have a base of people he can depend on. And this goes back to a theory I talked about way back as far as 2012, as related to racism having a codependent aspect. Because when you have codependent people, what happens is you have the victim and the abuser. And in a codependent relationship, the abuser has all the power. And what he does is he abuses the victim. And as he's abusing the victim, he then tries to make himself look like the victim. But what happens is the person just keeps submitting to his control, because he keeps mentally manipulating them. So a lot of black people don't see that codependent relationship they have with white people, because they don't understand that racism has a mental health component and codependency is part of it. So they really want to have the black man codependent and the black woman codependent, because they can go out here, abuse the black man, and then as he's being abused, he's sitting there thinking he did something wrong, when the only thing he did wrong was sit here and go along with this abuser who just needs him, because without him, he can't have any power. So they need the black man at the bottom of the world, broken, believing he's worthless, believing that he's weak, and believing that there's something wrong with him, because codependent people always think that there's something wrong with them. And if they do things, they can make themselves better in many cases. That's why you have so many black men out here buck dancing and bojangling. That's why you have many black women frying their hair blonde. They want to gain that acceptance and approval of that abuser, but that abuser will never accept you, because they get their power from abusing you. And this flies over the heads of many codependent people as related to white supremacy. They don't understand that they want you, black man, at the bottom, because he can go out here and have somebody who he can sit here and say he's better than, and he can have somebody there he can say that he has control over. And as long as he's got somebody there at the bottom he says he can have control over, he can have that sense of security about himself. And when he has that sense of security about himself, he feels like he can go on in the lie that he is the most powerful being on the planet, because as long as he's at the bottom of the world, as long as the black man is at the bottom of the world, he can feel like he's superior to everyone. Because again, like Professor Black Truth has said, white supremacy is all about anti-black racism, because as long as the black man is at the bottom of the world, and as long as he can feel like he's at the bottom of the world, he has a sense of security about himself. But that sense of security is a false sense of security, because he knows deep down inside that he's got this insecurity and feeling of inadequacy in himself. And that's the reason why there's just this deep fixation and obsession with the black man and going out here to break the black man. Because if that black man is under him, then he feels secure. And that's why he's always got his eye on the black man. And even though you've had terrorist acts like 9/11 and numerous acts of violence, he's not looking over there at those other non black groups. He's always fixated with tunnel vision on the black man because his insecurities just keep him fixated and focused on that black man with laser focus. And that's why he's always fixated on him, because if he can go up, if he fears that if 1 minute of looking away from that black man, he will start to take power. And that's the thing that has the white supremacist terrified most of all, because when he sits there and he's out here, he knows that his position is a false position. And that's again comes from his fear, because he has no faith in the Most High God, because his power came from the devil. And because his power came from the devil, he's always looking over his shoulder, and he's always looking over his shoulder because he knows he can't trust his position of power, because his power is on a shaky platform. Meanwhile, a black man, if he were to come to power under the Most High God, his power would be coming from the Most High God. And anything that God gives a man will never be broken, because what God sets up, no man can tear asunder. And that's what the white supremacist greatly fears, is an establishment of something built by God. And that's why many of your white supremacists really fear the black man ever getting any sort of economic power or political power, where you have a platform of justice and a platform as related to black empowerment. Because when you have a platform as related to true justice and black empowerment, then the white supremacist can't not dominate, because he will be held to a different standard. Because under the standard of white supremacy, you have people getting these freebies, these givebacks, these giveaways, and all of these favors, all because they have white skin. But under a merit-based system of justice, the people who can dominate by competing, they are the ones who control the resources. So that's another reason why the white supremacist fears the black man, because if he goes out here and competes in the business world the way he has in the sports world, then he's going to dominate. And if he goes out here and has a sense of value of self, he's going to go out here and build strong families, and he's going to build a culture where instead of us worshiping the white supremacist, people start to worship the Most High God, not the one that people were taught about in the white man's religion, but the God who was talked about in the gospel of Jesus Christ, who is a completely different God than what you see in most of your organized religion. And again, I love the way Tariq broke that down as related to how these organized religions, again, they talk about how they are serving God, but they're not really serving God, because here you are participating in these abominable acts according to the God you say you serve. But then you're going to sit here and then try to use religion to justify participating in these sexually deviant and abominable acts. And again, white supremacists, they need to participate in these acts because they feel like this is their way of having power, and they want to break that black man down, because once you break that black man and you break him down to the ground and have him submit to you, then you can go out here and feel some sort of security in your own masculinity. But the true security in your masculinity is submitting to the Most High God as his servant and his steward. But the white supremacist does not want to submit to the Most High God as his servant and steward, because he wants to serve the devil and he wants to receive the benefits in this world, not understanding that there is more to life than this life, that there is an eternal life after this. But he's not thinking about that eternal life because he wants to go out here and receive all of these benefits right now, not understanding that the final road for him is the pit of hell. And that's where he's going because his whole world is based on a lie, and his whole world is based on ideas of him being the God over men and him being a God in and of himself, when God himself said that we shall have no other gods before him in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, he said that we were supposed to love the Lord with all our heart, soul, and spirit. And this white supremacist does not love God at all. He will use religion to manipulate people and manipulate facts. And again, Tariq thoroughly goes through this in Buck Breaking as related to how this has been used historically, because the white supremacist has always been a sexual deviant. And again, this obsession with sex goes all the way back to his obsession with power. And he has this obsession with going out here and trying to break people down so that he can have that power over people and have that control over people. Because when you go out here and participate in these kind of sex acts, again, it is never about pleasure as related to expressing love. It is always about having power over another man and breaking another man and making other people watch this because you want them to yield to your power. And goes back to a point I talked about in my book, The Man Crisis, about how your sexual deviants, they are obsessed with their penises and how they like to use their penises as weapons. And I can even go back to a feminist texture, Susan Brown Miller's Against Our Will, Men, Women, and Rape. And she talks about how the Rape Act is not about sex and how it's about power. And again, these men go out here and participate in these deviant acts because it's about them having power over other men, and it's also about having other men placed in a submissive position. And this is one of the things that they're trying to, as I see it, socially engineer into our media, because when it comes down to Black media these days, one of the most troubling things I see is this effort to try to give you these images of emasculated men, effeminized men, and homosexualized men. And this, I believe, is done by design, because every media image I see of an alphabet character is always Black. Because when I go to the comic book industry and they talk about, oh, we want this diversity, and they show me non-binary characters and alphabet characters, they always push the Black characters to the forefront. You never see them talking about white or Asian or Hispanic or even Muslim alphabet characters. It's always about Black characters. And that is all part of the social engineering process to buck break the minds of young children so that they can go out here and buy into the idea that when you see a Black image, you automatically associate it with being an alphabet person and not being a heterosexual person. Because why is it that every almost new Black character is not a heterosexual character? That's a critical question I like to ask many of these comic book publishers and even some of these TV producers, because it seems like every other Black character out here is an alphabet character. And again, that's all part of the social engineering process to strip Black men and Black women of their sexual identity so that they won't be able to connect with each other and see each other as lovable, attractive, or desirable, or going out here to go out here and build strong Black families. Because again, the white supremacist fears a Black family coming together, because when you have a Black father and a Black mother coming together to have Black children, they are the greatest thing that white supremacy fears. And an effort to, again, depopulate the Black community, the first thing that they did was turn the Black woman against the Black man. And now that they've turned the black woman against the black man, they now want to go out here and further turn the black man away from his desire that is natural for the woman and turn him towards a way that is unnatural towards this attraction for other men. So what they want to do is, again, give you these images of effeminized black men, these images of emasculated black men, these images of black men in dresses. And when you put a man in a dress, that is the ultimate sign of disrespect. Because if anybody remembers the Abu Ghraib incident in Iraq, where those Iraqi prisoners had themselves stacked in piles and then had panties put over their head, many people saw that as a human rights violation. And they saw it as a human rights violation because that was another form of buck breaking. They wanted to go out here and break those Iraqi men by stripping them naked, piling them on top of each other, putting panties on their head. And the symbolism of the panties on the head was all about saying that this man is so weak that we can put him in the position of a female and we can put female clothing on him because we have made this man our bitch. And that's what they were doing, was related to that Abu Ghraib incident in Iraq almost 20 years ago. And many people don't see that what was being done with black men. I mean, we could see the human rights violation as related to the Iraqi people, but we could not see how this was a human rights violation in ways as related to black men. Now, over the last 30 years, this social engineering has been seen as a social norm, and this social engineering has been presented as an acceptable way to treat black men. And what they, again, want to do with these type of images is program the idea in your mind that the black man is not a man, he is not a leader, he is not somebody whose authority you need to respect. And in fact, he is so weak that we can place him in the position of a female and we have absolutely no respect for him. And what's really sad is you have many in Hollywood who go out here and put these dresses on thinking that they're going to get some sort of push. But the little push you get from the white supremacists in Hollywood is nothing towards the compromise of your dignity and your self-respect that you go give out here, because when you compromise your intangibles of manhood, what happens is you are sending a message to the world that you do not value yourself as a man. You do not see a worth as a man. You do not really see and understand your place as a man. And we can take your manhood away, not really take your manhood away. You will give your manhood away in order to be accepted by another group of people. And your Hollywood is a notorious place for buck breaking. It is filled with sexual deviance. And when I found out how filled with sexual deviance it was, I just got absolutely disgusted. And I stopped even pursuing, I had a quest to go out here and get one of my screenplays, sold. I had this book called All About Maryland. It was a screenplay book. And I had a quest to go out here and get this screenplay book produced. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because when I found out the truth about Hollywood and how it was just filled with sexual deviance and how it was filled with people who really were not about elevating the black image, because this book was about a black actress who was faded in Hollywood and her struggles to rebuild her life. And I couldn't get this. Again, this is another script I couldn't get sold because they didn't want to see the positive images of black womanhood. But I left. I didn't want anything to do with Hollywood because it's just, again, filled with perverts, filled with sexual deviance. And these people, again, have an obsession with power, and they have an obsession with trying to break people. And that's what a lot of them like to do. They like to go out here and break people as part of their process, because they had a Netflix series called Hollywood. And it was all about how many of these alphabet type producers, it was really like a fan fiction. and it was all about how they would break people and use their penises to control people. Um, so if you want to pick up a copy of All About Marilyn, you can pick up a copy of All About Marilyn on Amazon. And again, this was a screenplay about black actresses and their struggles in Hollywood, and it was filled with a lot of great detail about how the black women are mistreated in Hollywood. And I walked away because I said, I don't want anything to do with these people because they take your stories and twist them. And Rosilla, it is a screenplay. This story actually is a screenplay. It's one of my first scripts. So I mean, I look at Hollywood and I want nothing to do with it because it's filled with, again, a lot of deviance. And again, the process to enter into that entertainment industry is basically buck breaking. And if you watch the Netflix series called Hollywood, it basically shows you that white supremacist power structure and the sexual deviant acts that all are a part of buck breaking. And there's a black character in that series who basically they basically have him as a he's just basically buck broken throughout the series, and he's the only character in the series that is black, and he's just basically used and abused throughout the series. But they won't ever. But again, this is a Netflix series, and it just was disturbing to watch. So I've seen that and heard about these horror stories as related to Hollywood, and I want nothing to do with it because again, it's filled with sexual deviance, and that whole place is it's a Sodom and Gomorrah. And again, they get off on breaking people down, and that's one of those things that people don't really want to talk about as related to Hollywood. It's all based. You're looking at the entertainment on the outside, but there's a lot of sickness on the inside. And again, they buck break these black entertainers, and that's what we're seeing right now with all of these black men in dresses. And they want to again push this socially engineered agenda towards breaking the black man, and they want to break this black man because if he's in again a submissive position, their place in the world, they feel secure in that position. Because if you've got a black man and you can show him in media as broken and weak, then you've got a man that nobody will ever see as a leader or anybody will respect. And Lotus makes a good point. Yes, it is a modern day buck breaking plantation. I mean, Hollywood, they just go out of their way to break black men, and they go out of their way secretly to break black women. So the casting couch is a real thing, but the casting couch as a whole buck breaking component. And again, part of that ritual to show that you are not going to be a threat to them and you will know your place is putting on that dress, because that dress symbolizes submission, just like the guy who bends over is symbolizing his submission. And these are things that the white supremacists love to have out here, because when you have a black man who is broken, that's not somebody who you need to fear, because you have power over him. You have him on his knees. You have him submitting to you, and you have him in a place where he is under your complete control. So that's what buck breaking, as I see it, truly is. I mean, it's a white supremacist going out of his way to break a black man, and he's going again out of his way to destroy that black man and destroy him, not just with this act of sexual deviancy, but also going out of his way to destroy that black man, because you're taking him away from God, you're taking him away from his purpose in God, and you're taking him away from his place as a masculine black man and keeping him from being the man he's supposed to be. So they don't really, again, want you to be a strong and masculine black man out here. They want you to be this weak, submissive black man who is docile and just weak and just submissive and soft. They like seeing a soft black male. And that was all of what the feminist movement was all about in the 70s and the 60s. They were all about trying to socially engineer 2 to 3 generations of these soft beta males, which became your Pookies and your Ray Rays, and some of them became some of your more suit wearing type guys like your Jaleel Whites and many others. These were a group of, again, soft, weak, submissive black males who only, again, like your white supremacists, only think with their penis. And they really are not about doing any sort of work of God. They're just out here to go out here and just use women, abuse women, and again, completely broken. That's what they want to do out here, and they're completely broken. And again, that's what the white supremacist wants. He likes broken men because either they'll go out here and be black bootlicks like some of the suit wearing guys, or they will become a part of his prison system where they will be indoctrinated into sexual deviancy by individuals like your Bubba and your Tiny. So it's basically taking the black man off the road to proper manhood and taking him down the road to sexual deviancy, where he will be a man who just learns how to be just like the white supremacist. And Tariq again talks about this whole buck breaking process. And again, this buck breaking process takes a black man on the road to the same satanic road that the white supremacist is on. And that's what the white supremacist wants to see the black man on, in a road where he's right under the black man, and he's not under the black man, but the black man is under him, and he can be the god over him. But both of them are in hell submitting to the devil, and basically the devil has them all under his control. Now, Farside says, I always thought Jaleel White was an alpha male. No, Jaleel White was a beta male. And that was shown in the article, in the interview he did, where he threw Bill Cosby under the bus because a man of character would not speak against an elder. No, a man of character is going to say no comment because he knows that he's going to need the help and support of that black man. And if it wasn't for that black man, Bill Cosby, again, going out here and going to refer him to the William Morris Agency, he wouldn't have had much of a career as related to family matters. And he stabbed Bill Cosby in the back because, again, part of the new ritual in order to move up ahead in Hollywood as related to white supremacy is to go out here and bash Bill Cosby, which is a new ritual along with putting on a dress. And this is what the white supremacist wants to see. He wants to see how you will submit to him. And that's what he wants to see with black men and black people in Hollywood. And that's why so many of these celebrities are going out of their way to speak against Bill Cosby, because they want to be able to get some butter biscuit crumbs from the slave master's table. Many of these black celebrities in Hollywood, they're showing us how much of a bootlick they are, because they're not loyal to black people and they're not loyal to black empowerment. And that is the message they are sending to the world as related to this whole issue of Bill Cosby, is showing that who they're truly loyal to. That's what we're seeing with your Eddie Murphys, your D.L. Hewleys, your Malcolm Jamal Warners, your Lisa Bonets, your Lenny Kravitz, your Jaleel Whites. Many of these black celebrities are showing who they are loyal to, and they are loyal to the Hollywood white supremacist plantation, and they are loyal slaves who want to go out here and submit to the slave master. So that's one of the things that they want to do out here. And Mr. Melvin makes a good point. Yes, the Me Too movement was another form of buck breaking, because the Me Too movement was started based on Bill Cosby. The whole platform was designed to go after Bill Cosby, and it was designed to go after our prominent black men, because the white supremacists did not want us to see our black celebrities and our black male success stories as successes. So they wanted to go out here and destroy their reputations and their names by trying to push and project the brute narrative onto men like Bill Cosby and make them demonized as some sort of perverts and sexual deviants. And that's what the Me Too movement was originally about. Unfortunately, what happened was your white male, Roger Ailes, was caught up in a scandal as related to Gretchen Carlson, and he thought he could sweep the whole thing under the rug by paying her 20 million. But once he paid her that 20 million to shut up, the media outlets got a hold of it, and that kicked in the female nature of the white woman. And as she became hypergamous and looking to get resources for herself, what happened was you saw all of these white women coming out and making allegations because they wanted to get a bag just like your Roger Ailes gave to Gretchen Carlson. And that's what made the entire Me Too movement completely collapse and fall apart. And even though they tried to make efforts to try to rebuild the Me Too movement with splinter groups like Time's Up and Silence Breakers, what happened was the Me Too movement wound up collapsing because the white woman wanted the attention, and she also wanted access to that bag that these richer white men had. And they wanted to get paid. And even though they tried to go out here and buy them off, the whole movement completely collapsed last year when they tried to go after your Joe Biden, and they were revealed to be hypocrites. And the whole movement has been shown to become the nonprofit scam it originally was planning to be. Because again, this was all about older white women getting that bag and getting that payday. And those older white women, they knew that they had aged out of the Hollywood system. And they had aged out of the Hollywood system as related to the casting couch, where they participated in numerous acts of sexual deviancy in order to get many of these roles. So don't let anybody fool you. As somebody who knows the entertainment business, I know that these women have gone out here and participated in numerous acts of sexual deviancy to go out here and get these roles. And they were upset that they couldn't get one more last payday because Bill Cosby, they wanted to destroy him, but then they wound up taking out many more of these white guys. And that's why they had to try to pull the plug on this Me Too movement, because it was really starting to affect people in high places. And we really started to see, again, the start of the walk back as related to the Me Too movement when they went after Senator Al Franken and cost him his job. That's when the white women realized they were biting the hand that fed them. And when they went after Brett Kavanaugh, they realized that they had gone too far. And after that, they tried to go after Joe Biden. That's when they again really started to back off, and we started to see the hypocrisy of the Me Too movement. But Me Too, again, was again another form of buck breaking. The original plan was to go after the black men, and it was meant to go after black men and destroy their reputations and their careers. So the whole Me Too movement was all about buck breaking the black man, presenting him as a black brute and a sexual deviant, and then costing him his economic resources, and then taking away his freedom, and then sending him to prison. So the Me Too movement, again, it was another group of buck breakers. They wanted to see the black man broken and in chains, because the white supremacist does not, again, want the black man to have anything, including a legacy. And they wanted to, again, take away Bill Cosby's legacy with the Me Too movement, but there was no way of taking it away. And they also wanted to take Michael Jackson's legacy away, but that also has failed. I mean, they've been trying to go after Michael Jackson for several years because he was another example of a black man who had taken his economic power. I mean, even though he had bleached his skin, he was a shrewd businessman, and he actually had power over business ventures that many of these white racists wanted to have. I mean, he controlled the Beatles catalog. He controlled many of these other musicians' catalogs. And I heard one story about how Eminem took a jab at him, and then Michael Jackson went and bought his whole catalog, showing his economic power and dominance. And a lot of people have a problem with Michael Jackson because of the power he wielded in the business world. So they had a lot of problems with Michael Jackson, and the white supremacists wanted to see him broken, but they could not break him. I mean, the only thing that broke him was the anxiety and the fear that he had. And that was the thing that led to him winding up, unfortunately, taking the propofol that cost him his life. But your Michael Jackson was again another icon that they could not break, and because they could not break that icon, that's one of the things that obsessed the white supremacists. Because as long as there's somebody there that can show that they could take power in his society, that's the thing that keeps him up at night. That's the thing that keeps him insecure and has him scared, is when he sees that black man who has gone out here and built something and has a lasting long legacy and can show you a balanced, humanized black man that he cannot go out here and destroy. That's the thing that has him up at night, because there's one black man that he cannot break. There's one black man that he cannot compromise, and one black man that he cannot go out here and say that he has put under him. That's the thing that makes him, his insecurities rile up. And that's one of the reasons why he hates Bill Cosby. And that's one of the reasons why he hates Michael Jackson. And that's the reason why he hates strong, masculine black images like I present in books like I do, like John Haynes Taking Care of Business. And you can get that book on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format. And again, images like this of strong, masculine, heterosexual black men, images like this make many people uncomfortable, because here you have an image of a black man and he's got sisters behind him. And again, these type of images, this is not what the white supremacist wants you to see. No, he wants you to see the buck broken black man. He wants you to see the weak black man. He wants you to see the emasculated black man, but he doesn't want you to see, again, strong masculine black images of manhood, because those images make him uncomfortable. And there was a point in Tariq's documentary that really related to me. I remember he was talking about black men and their hair. Thank you, Mogul Maze, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So he was talking about hair and how hair represents a person's identity, and it also represents their power. And it took me back to a day when I was working at the City College Science Library, and I remember I had the same haircut I had right now, and this professor who was running the library, he came up to me and he tried to talk to me about my hair, but then he got scared and backed off. And when I listened to Tariq talk about that, again, it took me back to that incident where I knew something was wrong with that, because I'm like, the person who was working there had dreadlocks, and he didn't have an issue with that, but he had an issue with me having this flat top fade, and it really wasn't even higher than, it was actually just about the same size. But again, it showed me how many people fear black masculinity, because your hair represents your part of your masculinity and your male identity. And when a man is radiating masculine energy and he has masculine features, it makes a lot of these whites, racists on the job, extremely uncomfortable. Now, your regular white person, they could care less about a guy with a high top fade because he's secure in his masculinity. But your racist, they will get insecure in the presence of a masculine black man who is confident in himself and secure in his male identity. And this guy, when I was working there, he tried to say something about it. I guess he was trying to tell me I should cut it, but I was like, I don't really care, because this is who I am, and this is, again, a representation of myself. And when Tariq was talking about how they would shave the black people's hair, the slaves' hair, it took me back to that incident, because it's all about them feeling insecure in the presence of actual black masculinity. Because again, when a man is standing there with his own hair and his own hair that he is expressing himself with, it's all about him making a statement, saying that he has confidence, he's secure in himself, and he represents actual masculinity. And this makes a lot of these white racists and other non-black racists extremely uncomfortable when they see actual black masculinity on the job. Now, I didn't get to keep that job, sadly. And I think one of the reasons why I wasn't able to keep it was not just this accusation of sleeping at the desk, because I was just standing up. And again, you can't sleep standing up. It was this guy's fear and feeling of insecurity in the presence of a black man. And I believe he was trying to make cutting statements, like when he said, "Oh, I'm looking for somebody with a sales and customer service background." He was scared of black manhood and black masculinity. And a lot of employers, they get scared when they see a black man entering the room, and a black man entering the room and having the confidence to go out here and be themselves. This is one of the things that they try to buck break out of black men. And that's why you start to see the black guys with the supercuts hairlines who chase white women getting most of the jobs, because they fear actual black masculinity on the job. And that's something I've seen myself. I mean, in different jobs, they fear actual black masculinity and expressions of black masculinity. If you're out here and you're trying to be a white guy with a supercuts hairline, or you got some conch in your hair, yeah, they'll let you in, because they know, again, these are haircuts that present submission. But when you start to go out here and wear, like I'm wearing the flat top fade, or you go out here and you have your locks, that's something that makes them uncomfortable, because they aren't comfortable with a black man having masculinity. So they want to see the buck broken black man who's out here and he's just showing how submissive he is. And I've even seen this with guys, and even with the ways that they dress. I mean, I've seen guys, they don't really wear, really nice shirts that pop. They'll go out here and buy this really bland, no-name brand white shirt, and they'll buy some blue or gray tie to show that they're submissive. So they're not going to really show you actual, flair or confidence. I mean, that was one of the things I used to do when I would go to work, because this type of shirt right here is the same type of shirt I would be wearing to work. I mean, showing that, I have this confidence. And this is something that it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, is seeing a black man with the just drive to just be himself and secure in himself. And again, many employers, they don't like heterosexual black masculinity, and many people don't like heterosexual black masculinity. And that's part of why they have the buck breaking agenda, is because they don't want you to see, heterosexual black masculinity, because when people see heterosexual black masculinity, they become attracted to it. And that man is going to go out here and he's going to be somebody that somebody's going to see as a potential boyfriend or a potential wife. I mean, a woman will see as a potential man that they want for a husband. So when they see heterosexual black masculinity, this makes many white guys uncomfortable. I don't even remember going to job interviews, and they don't really like seeing it, because I would sometimes feel the presence of some of these guys, and you can feel the weakness radiating off them. And I always found that to be interesting. I mean, when you can feel somebody's weakness. I remember going to one interview for another library and just feeling the weakness from the interviewer. He just didn't have any confidence at all. And it was something that it just made me really think about, a lot of the things that Tariq talked about in buck breaking, because when you look at many of these companies, they don't really want to have that black man on the job, because he's out here and he's radiating masculinity and masculine presence. And this is something that's done unconsciously, because I'm an introvert with anxiety issues, but these guys feel insecure in my presence because, again, they are uncomfortable about having to encounter a heterosexual black man. So they really don't really like seeing black manhood and masculinity. So that's why they go out of their way to try to buck break black men, and they try to push these emasculated black men as an ideal. But no natural man who follows the Most High God is going to follow those ideas, because those ideas run counter to what God made a man. Because who God made a man is somebody who understands his role as a man, understands his purpose as a man, understands his job as a man, and that man wants to be the leader that God made him to be, made him the steward God made him to be, and take the responsibility that God gave him. And he wants to take that power, because he understands he is not here just living and existing on earth like the white supremacist is, and living for this world. He understands that there are greater rewards to be given to him in the kingdom for doing his work on earth. And he understands that if he trusts in God, God will provide him with what he needs to do his work. So what he looks looking for as related to a broken and contrite spirit, God is looking for a man who submits to his leadership and his authority. But your white supremacist, he wants a man with a different type of broken spirit. And the type of broken spirit he's looking for in a man is a man so broken in spirit that he's looking to submit to the white supremacist as God and serve the devil. So when you look at the buck breaking, you can see a lot of spiritual aspects as related to this. Sorry, I'm glad. I know you have to go Wrestling Superstar 83. I'm getting ready to go in a couple of minutes, but I really want to get this point across. Much respect. Good night to you, Wrestling Superstar 83. He's one of my long-term viewers. I really love having him on the stream. But he wants, again, the Most High wants that spirit where you're serving him out of love, but the white supremacists want you to serve him out of fear. So there's a big contrast between the two. I mean, there's faith and there's fear, and God wants you to serve him out of faith, out of love, and believing in him. But the white supremacist, who is a founded in the devil, wants you to serve him out of fear. And he needs the black man to be afraid of him, and he creates everything to terrorize him, to create that fear. But the Most High God gives you faith to overcome him because you have victory in Jesus Christ, who overcame hell, sin, and death. So you have nothing to be afraid of as related to this white supremacist when you have a foundation in the true God and not in his religion. And when I think about, again, Tariq's masterpiece of a DVD, Buck Breaking, again, this is a masterpiece of filmmaking, and it really shows what new black media can do when we have the money to go out here and put our own business ventures together. Because your Tariq is showing us that we no longer need to depend on white supremacist institutions like Hollywood in order to create quality content. I mean, him and Jason Black with his Race War and other documentaries are showing us we no longer need to sit there and look for some white company to go out here and produce images of us and tell our stories. With all these resources like print-on-demand technology and all of these different platforms, we can create our own content and get it to the marketplace. So Tariq right here is showing the same thing I'm doing with the SJS Direct imprint, that we can go out here and create our own content, and we can go out here, tell our own stories, tell our own experiences, and share our own experiences. And we don't have to go out here and seek white validation and white approval. We can elevate ourselves, elevate our own image, and present a positive picture of self. And we can go out here and tell our stories, and we don't need to depend on other platforms to seek out their approval and their acceptance, because your mainstream black Hollywood, those bootlicks are never going to produce anything like a Buck Breaking. Your white supremacists out here, they're never going to go out here and go along with this because it runs counter to their narratives. And they're not going to go out here and try to tell these stories to you about these social engineering campaigns. No, they're not going to give you this kind of content. And I really applaud Tariq for taking the time to go out here and make this DVD, which presents, again, a lot of points that I've seen in my own research for books like The Man Crisis, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and even books like the first book I did in 2002, The First ISIS. I mean, he has really confirmed a lot of the talking points I have really seen from my own observations and my own research with this DVD. And that's why I can highly recommend you go out here and pick up this Buck Breaking DVD, because this DVD gives you a comprehensive picture of the whole white supremacist insecurity as related to the black man. And it's something that really is, again, as I see it, essential viewing for anybody who wants to gain a better understanding of the black experience and a better understanding of black culture. So I'm gonna again leave the link to Tariq's buck breaking um, on in the chat once more, because this is one I highly recommend you go out here and pick up. And picking it up directly from Tariq means the money goes directly to that Black-owned business. And I'm glad you're looking at John Haynes taking care of business, computer robots. This is a great story. John Haynes taking care of business. Again, this is a story about a black man. Again, he's facing against these forces, principalities, and spirits of darkness. That's what the whole series is all about. And again, it's a positive story about a black man, and he's running this corporation, which is the corporate hell. It's kind of a fantasy story, but it's a positive image of black manhood and masculinity that you don't get in mainstream media. And again, it's new black media that is producing this kind of content, and it is new black media that is giving you a different experience and perspective, and building on the legacy of great men like Bill Cosby. It is new black media that's going out here and producing this kind of content. So every dollar you give to a guy like Tariq, or you give to myself, really helps us be able to produce more content. So I really appreciate if you guys would pick up John Haynes Taking Care of Business, which is part of the 2021 SJS Direct catalog, or ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, which is also a part of the 2021 SJS Direct catalog. And I also produce other books in the SJS Direct imprint. The story of All About Marilyn, about the struggles of black actresses in Hollywood. This is a really good story. I urge you to pick up. And Eternal Night, my first black vampire novel, which takes us to another part of the black community, which is the black goth subculture. And that's another thing that you're not going to get from old legacy black media, is seeing a larger picture of the black community and the black experience, because those publishing houses that are controlled by white women are not about trying to present you with positive images of black people or different experiences. No, all they want to do is produce slave movies and movies where black people are miserable and downtrodden. They don't want to go out here and give you humanized pictures and humanized stories about the black experience. So I'm asking everybody to head over to Amazon.com and pick up books like ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, John Haynes Taking Care of Business, All About Marilyn, and Eternal Night, because all these books, and like Easteen Blast from the Past, all these books present you again with different stories about the black experience and black culture. And again, I have a catalog of over 75 books on Amazon right now. So I really would appreciate it if you guys head over there, pick up a paperback, pick up an ebook, and support a black-owned business and help this black-owned business go to the next level. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream, but I really wanted to give a review because the viewer asked me to give that review, and I gave that review live. So again, I highly recommend you pick up Tariq Nasheed's Buck Breaking. It is a fantastic documentary, extremely well done, and it's something that is essential viewing for anybody who is B1 and somebody who loves black people. So I'm going to wrap up tonight's stream. I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream, and I hope you'll be there for next week's stream. I mean, we had a record number, 125 people in the chat and 103 people right now. And if everybody headed over to Amazon to pick up some of the books, it would, again, really help increase the sales to double-digit or even triple-digit levels. And that would be something that would really help out the SJS Direct imprint, where I produce positive stories about the black experience and diversify the black book market and give you stories that you're not going to get on a mainstream platform. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. And if you could pick up the books, it would really be appreciated. And if you could donate to the Cash App, it would really be appreciated. Again, want to wrap it up tonight, and I'm hoping you come out for next week's show.